Hi everyone, it's Jonathan from Ars Technica, and I'm here with one of the most exciting cars I've driven all year. It's the new Alfa Romeo Giulia Quadrifoglio, and I apologize to any Italians out there if I mangle the pronunciation of that. Alfa's Giulia is their new sedan. It's about the same size as the BMW 3 Series. We actually awarded this car Best New Performance Car at this year's New York Auto Show. It's rear-wheel drive. It uses a 505 horsepower twin-turbo V6 that's basically the same engine that Ferrari use in their current turbocharged cars, except with 6 instead of 8 cylinders. It uses an 8-speed ZF transmission. It's set a Nürburgring time of 7 minutes 32 seconds, which is extremely fast. And despite its flaws, of which it has quite a few that I'll point out in a minute, I think this is one of the best cars on sale right now. You can tell this is the QV model because it has some big grills, notably this carbon fiber front splitter here. That actually moves depending on how fast you go. So it will drop down and add an extra 220 pounds of downforce to the front, which is quite useful if you're going particularly fast or driving it on track. You have these cool LED headlights. Behind these front grills, there are tons of radiators everywhere. In addition to that front splitter being carbon fiber, lots of the rest of the car is too. So this hood, carbon fiber. The roof, carbon fiber. The trunk lid, carbon fiber. In fact, you also get a neat little naked carbon fiber spoiler there. You get some little carbon fiber door sills. You even, when you're sitting in the car, can actually see the weave of the carbon fiber underneath, like the hood line. I think the easiest way to sum this car up is if Ferrari were going to build an M3, this is the car they would build. So the interior styling may not be to everyone's tastes, but I think it's very Ferrari-like with these round dials. There's carbon fiber bits everywhere, the contrasting stitching. It reminds me a lot of the California T that we drove last year. The infotainment system, it's not the worst one we've ever used. It's better than, for example, the ones we've had in recent Ferraris, but it's still not really particularly good. I think it's well integrated into the dash. Instead of looking like someone just glued an iPod in there, it's built into the screen. But you have this big surround, but then the actual screen itself is only this little bit. And the nav system is, it's not really amazing. Gear lever, it's a bit like a BMW one, but kind of ever so slightly cheaper. If you want to change gear manually, you end up banging this jog wheel a lot. However, I don't know why you'd want to change gear using this lever because you have these fantastic aluminum shift paddles right here. The little digital display, you can get some useful information on there, but it's not perfect. Like I would like to be able to see my tire pressures perhaps, or maybe a slightly better fuel readout than the one it's giving me. It just seems like there's more they could have done with that. It's obviously a full 5-seater. The seats are extremely comfortable. They're electronically adjusted, they're heated. You can make the side bolsters really squish you quite tight. There are optional carbon fiber racing buckets available, but I think these standard seats are pretty good. Alfa crams a ton of standard equipment into the car. So the spec price on this one is, I think, about $79,000. And whilst that is quite a lot, if you were to spec an M3 or an AMG 63S or an ATS-V to the same kind of spec, you'd probably be looking at an extra $8,000 or $9,000. Despite those kind of complaints, this car really is amazing. It has something that so few cars have these days, which is character. So, I mentioned that this car is not perfect. I'm just sitting here in the car, and obviously you won't be able to get this from the video, but my seat is vibrating thanks to the kind of lack of NVH dampening along the carbon fiber drive shaft that runs from the engine to the rear wheels. That's the sort of thing that if you were a German car company or an American car company, you'd probably engineer out. You'd put some mass dampers somewhere or some, bushings, that kind of thing. The Italians thought, no, you know what? It gives the car character, and it does. So it comes with a stop-start system. These are obviously all the rage in Europe because it reduces fuel emissions. They're starting to become more popular here. The steering wheel is not quite as festooned with buttons and controls, I guess, as Maranello does. Alfa are a little bit more restrained there. It has gigantic carbon ceramic brakes, so it stops very well. There's quite a lot of high tech in it. It uses a torque vectoring rear differential, so kind of similar to the Ford Focus RS that we drove last year. It's fully braked by wire, so there's no kind of traditional, it uses all electronic braking. Obviously it's drive by wire. The engine will cut off 3 of its cylinders if you're in eco mode for better fuel economy. Although, I did speak to another owner who says it will do 30 mpg on the freeway, even in town, if you baby it. But if you're going to baby a car, why would you spend $80,000 on something like this? You could daily drive it. You have 4 different drive modes. There's Advanced Eco, which is if you're feeling worried about the planet, you can drive around in advanced eco. It will shut down half of the V6 a lot of the time to save fuel. There's normal, which is for day-to-day driving and is actually very comfortable. There is dynamic, which tightens everything up, and it has this handy little button, again, borrowed from Ferrari, where you can put the car in dynamic, and then you push this, and it makes the dampers soft, so you can drive around broken city streets like Washington, DC, and it doesn't shake all your fillings loose. And then finally, you give this one more twist, and you go into race. Shall we see how fast it goes at a stoplight? There's a little bit of wheel spin there. I've noticed that when you drive around in any of the other modes where you actually get traction control enabled, what I initially thought was a bit of lag before you get to about 2,500 RPM. Did a bit of reading, and actually I think that's the traction control kicking in quite early, which is good because it means you can drive this car in the wet, I think, without fearing you're going to kill yourself. Unfortunately, when you put it in race mode, it turns off basically all of the advanced driver safety features. You don't get your forward collision alert, it disables the electronic stability control, but it does also mean that the car is much more responsive. Right now you might be able to hear the exhaust. I have it set up into race mode, which gives you the full noise out the front, and it is spectacular. At the risk of really annoying my neighbors, listen to this. That's just character. Given how low this car rides and how low profile the tires are, the ride is surprisingly good, even in the harder settings. So when you're in race mode and you push this little damper button, it gives you a mid-level. So you do that, the ride gets punishingly firm. And then we push that button again. Again, that's very Ferrari-ish. They decouple the dampers from the rest of the settings. The steering is very direct. I think it's about 2.2 turns lock to lock. So the steering is very quick. And that noise, I mean, it's fantastic. Okay, you have to have it in race mode to make it sound quite that good. In dynamic, you get that noise above 4,000 RPM, and it's pretty quiet in normal. Also, I don't know if you can hear that, but there's the driveline is not, again, it's not particularly refined. It's like when you're stopped, you can hear clunking from the back. The shift from first to second using the paddles is never particularly smooth unless you're completely off the gas. The 8-speed automatic actually does a really good job of shifting gears though. Some people might be annoyed that there's no manual. This car was designed around using this CF gearbox. Alright, so now we're in dynamic, which gives us back some of the safety features, and it's obviously a little bit quieter on part throttle. Overall, I think Alfa actually need to be extremely proud of the work they've done here, because this car is spectacular, and it really makes me wonder what the cheaper Giulias are like. I imagine they're also really quite good.